It's your boy, Kxng Anon. Today I'm just going, see here. I was watching a little bit of this earlier, and I just thought it was an interesting video I want to listen to. This is about Lil Bill. Shout out to Lil Bill. I think I did I subscribe to him? I think I did subscribe to him earlier. But I watched a few of his videos like a while ago, but I never really I don't know why. Sometimes I'll watch somebody's video, like their content, and not subscribe. Even if they say subscribe, most of the time my hands isn't on my device for me to subscribe to people sometimes. So like if I'm watching a video on my TV, I'm not holding a remote in my hand waiting for them to tell me to subscribe so I can go subscribe. Or if I'm watching on my phone's probably in my pocket or sitting down somewhere and I'm just listening to it on my earbuds, I'm not thinking about subscribing. But I subscribed to Lil Bill. But I want to watch this video. Got through half of it. Thought it was a very interesting video. I'm going to pause it every now and then so I could just have some discussions about certain things that are being had or whatever like that. This is like, because I'm not no, what I'm saying? What he's talking about, he's way more informed than me. Same with like FD Signified video, whatever like that. But it's kind of me just making sense of certain things that are being said, the context, or just certain things, and kind of learning from these things and being like, okay, yes, that makes sense. Or okay, maybe let me get my thoughts on this or thoughts on that or whatever like that. So I'm saying, but this is How the Hood Was Coming Out Part 1 by Lil Bill. Go and like, share, and subscribe to my video, but also like, share, and subscribe to Lil Bill video. But I just want to check this out. This is 3 years ago. You know what I'm saying? So I know I'm late. But it just popped up on my feed. That's what it's called, feed, right? My YouTube feed thing. So I just wanted to see what it was talking about. It was a very interesting thing. Because we always talking about just how our culture gets commodified, bastardized. Certain things that we created get taken out of context and put into different forms, and now they use that as a way to attack. They use our words that we made to attack us. So when we were saying stay woke, my brother, we were telling people to be aware of the things going on, and then they took that and then morphed it into woke being a bad thing. I don't know how. Being aware of what's going on in the world is now bad. Like, that's how you know corporate America, corporate and the quote unquote reptilian people that they, you know what I'm saying? That goes to show you that they found a way to control the average person's mind more than they would like to. Because telling someone to be aware of their surroundings, telling one to be aware of what's going on in the world that they live in, being a bad thing, it's crazy. But anyways, let's get into this video. Shout out Lil Bill. Go check out Lil Bill videos. Subscribe to his stuff. I'm gonna get the video. Let me make sure my door is closed. I think it's closed.
Confession to me. Despite the many references I make to both it and its artists, hip hop is not my favorite genre of music, and it hasn't been for quite some time now. And yes, I know that some of you listening believe that for black folks, that's tantamount to taking a dump in the Pope's hat. But as I've proven time and again on this channel, I'm a very bad Negro. I will say that over the past few decades, I've kept particular artists in my regular rotation, among them Nas and Kendrick, who I've mentioned before, and in my pursuit to teach my kid brother what music is actually supposed to sound like when it's not scrubbed clean of its authenticity with 300 grit sandpaper.
And that's something too. That's something too that because there's things that you get taught coming up that you kind of got to realize, okay, that maybe I'm wrong for believing this, or I'm wrong for putting people in a box, or I'm wrong for doing this and that. We associate, we kind of make ourselves have to fit into these stereotypes that are put on us. So we will harass or attack or go after somebody that is black if they don't listen to hip hop. Oh, you black, you're supposed to listen to hip hop. Oh, you black, you're supposed to do this. You black, you're supposed to do that. And it's just like, why do we do that? But that's just what we've been taught, is that to be black means to be this and to be that. When being black is just this. It's just the color of your skin. You understand what I'm saying? But also being black comes with an experience and a certain lifestyle and a certain treatment. What's popping? Being black, it comes with just a certain experience, certain results of living in the world that you live in. Like, there's more to being black than your skin. So I don't want to say that's all being black is, but when you break it down, you can be and do whatever you want. There is no, oh, you're black, so you can't do this. You can't like that. You understand what I'm saying? All being black is the skin color and the experience that you get from just being black, which isn't the best experience all the time, but there's also great experiences with being black. Like, cookouts be fire. You understand what I'm saying? Our conversations, our lingo, the way we talk to each other is a way that certain people may not understand, but we understand because we just have this connection of we black, we get it type shit. You understand what I'm saying? Like being, it's a lot of things, but at the end of the day, it is just a skin color, and you shouldn't tell somebody, oh, you don't like hip hop and you black, something wrong with you. You understand what I'm saying? Yeah, I'm good. I appreciate you stopping in.
Fees, both from him and on my own. That being said, I can only imagine that if I were to send my current Spotify playlist to the 17-year-old version of myself, a young Billiam would both scratch his head and contort his face in bewilderment while weaving together a tapestry of hitherto unknown obscenity groupings before contemplating throwing himself off a roof just to avert the apparent lame assness the adult version of himself would succumb to. Bay Area hip-hop icon and fat burger enthusiast E40 once said, "My chain's the same color as P." He also said, "I don't rock mainstream, I rock underground." That was me until like college, when for reasons beyond explanation, Rihanna's Rude Boy was suddenly my go-to workout song. My favorite rapper as a teen was this guy, who once made a song with this title. Yeah, things have changed, obviously. Let's set the record straight, though. Despite my teenage self's environment and taste in music, I was never what you would call a street kid. See, I was much too smart, in other words, paranoid, to be a street kid. Obviously, what would happen if I ever got caught by 12 carrying a gram of white and an unregistered Glock, but more so what would happen if my Pentecostal equivalent of a Franciscan nun mother ever found out I did. For the record, death. Like literal death. That's what would have happened. That and the fact that I always had people around me who evidently saw something in me that I didn't see myself kept the hood from dragging me beneath this undertow. So again, I was never in the streets, and I've never claimed to be, for the record, but...
That's the thing too, is like, that's another thing that doesn't get talked about, is like, some of us, not all of us, some of us are aware that certain ways of life aren't what needs to happen. There's this crazy. There's these things that happen sometimes where, and this is just, some people are aware, some people are a lot smarter, especially people in the streets are a lot smarter than they appear, and then there are some people that believe that there's only one way to be, and how they've taught you to be is the way to be, even though the ones that teach you or taught you or showed you the way to be aren't the people that you're really around. You understand what I'm saying? So there are some people that will glorify the streets. If you ain't never did this, you ain't a real nigga. If you ain't never did that, if you ain't never sold a brick, if you ain't never, like, they will glorify the street life. But then there will be some people that are in the streets but will tell you, hey bro, this ain't the way to go. I have to, you know what I'm saying, keep my head on the swivel at all times. I got to carry a gun on me at all times. I might get caught up. I might get killed. I might go to jail. This isn't the way of life for you. You are smarter. You have a chance to do something else and be a lot better than me. Those people exist in every hood. It may not be everyone in the hood, but there will be one or two or maybe 5 people in the hood that will be like, you don't have to go this way. You have a talent, whether you're smart or you can play basketball, you can play football, you can rap, you can do this and that. You don't have to go this way. There's a way out. Or if you're just like a good business, you're good with technology, you're a good business minded, you're this and that, you can find a way out, because this ain't the way to go. This isn't our culture. This is just us making the best of what we're given. You understand what I'm saying? Those people are people that should be talked about a lot more than they are, because when it comes to the street life and stuff like that, it's just always told, oh, time was hard, so you had to go in the streets, or you had to play basketball and this and that. But they don't tell you that there are mentors that exist in these communities that will lead you down the right path. You understand what I'm saying? And like he said in here, there were people in the streets that made sure, hey, don't mess with this shit. This ain't cool. This ain't what you should be doing. Stay smart. Stay in the books. Stay in school. Stay playing basketball, stay doing this, stay doing that. Now, because the internet can just take shit and bastardize it, you get fed this type of thing where it's just like, oh, everybody's shooters, everybody's killers, everybody this, everybody that. And then some people don't help it because they want to be like, oh yeah, I'm a talented basketball player, I'm a talented rapper, but people ain't gonna take me seriously if I'm not in the streets. And that's not true. The people that you want to take you seriously don't matter. They gave up on life a long time ago. You understand what I'm saying? And that's not talked about enough, is that there's people that really, I wouldn't say want to leave the hood and go to the suburbs, because that's another thing that kind of gets tricky. But there are people that want to see other people succeed and don't want people to go down a certain path of life. Even those that have went down that path of life, they know this ain't the way to go. It's stressful, but sometimes once you're in, you can't get out. And I don't want you to get trapped into where you can't get out. You understand what I'm saying?
I was always, shall we say, street adjacent. What I mean is, growing up in that kind of environment, even when you do all in your power to avoid getting into trouble, trouble is bound to find you at some point, if not several points. And the best you can hope for is that when that day comes, you're smart and or lucky enough that the trouble isn't life-altering or worse ending. This is why, like I said in the past, Kendrick is a lot for my top 2 favorite rappers. And depending on how I feel that day, he's numero eins. It's literally the title of, in some people's opinion, his best album, and the one that introduced both me and the mainstream to this nappy-headed kid from Compton doing everything in his power to avoid being a statistic while still staying true to the people and community that made him who he is. So basically, the West Coast version of myself, just without the bars, or the fame, or the money. I'm realizing now that this was not a good choice. This is why Illmatic is considered not only a hip-hop but cultural milestone. 19-year-old Nas is as hungry and desperate as he's ever been, and once this album dropped, ever would be. This is the sound of a hood kid saying, F it, let me in this booth so I can spit my truth to y'all. And if y'all don't like it, then F y'all too, because I might not live long enough to hear what you think about it anyway. This is the Nas that critics have been pining for since like 94. The ultra-aggressive street kid perpetually locked in a survival mode, putting them and the rest of the world up on hood knowledge, allowing them to experience, if for even a fleeting moment, what life on the wrong side of the tracks really looks like through the eyes of someone who lives and just might die there. And that, folks, is my problem with the reemergence of street rap as a mainstream commodity. It's not the product per se, but with some of the people who are consuming it, and more accurately, why they're consuming it. And how that consumption creates a demand for the next hot new hood life avatar of dubious lyrical competency, and how that creates a cycle of glorification, objectification, and commodification that tells kids like me, hey, it's okay to be a criminal, as long as you're willing to incriminate yourself over a trap beat to the delight of dejected suburbanites the world over. That is, if you don't die or get sent upstate for the rest of your life.
And the thing people don't realize when they're doing this stuff is people feel like people overrate their audience. You understand what I'm saying? People overrate their audience. People think when I'm talking this street shit, I'm talking to the streets. But you got to realize, for you to hit a certain milestone, you can no longer talk to the streets. So a young boy, though there are a lot, I know I'm from Louisiana, so of course I'm gonna know people that like Young Boy because Young Boy's from here. But if you break down Young Boy's fan base, you will probably find out that a good amount of Young Boy fans are white dudes that have never been to the hood. Same with Kodak Black. Same with a Lil Durk. Same with a Lil Baby. We can feel like, oh yeah, like that's why the Kendrick only makes music for white folks rhetoric is stupid, because when it comes to mainstream hip hop, all of them are making music for white people. Just because some black people prefer this one over this one or this one over this one doesn't mean that their audience isn't majority white people. There is no big, super famous hip hop artist that has not somehow crossed over to white people. White people that like hip hop may also like Jay-Z, may be one of their favorite rappers. White people that like hip hop, Eminem, even though Eminem's white, but might be their favorite rapper. Some white people that love hip hop, might be, especially younger people, might be Lil Durk fans. Might be Lil Baby fans, might be Kodak Black fans. I seen it for myself when Tekashi blew up. Yes, I knew some white people. I knew some black people that was rocking with Tekashi, but a lot of discussions about Tekashi were from white people. When we talking about at a certain point, the people that were covering street news and what's going on in the streets of hip hop, you would have a Adam 22, you would have a Aiden Ross, you would have a Vlad 22. You understand what I'm saying? A lot of these artists, when we talking about who's really touching the streets, who's really doing this, who's really doing that, we get it confused thinking that they're talking to black people at all times. Yes, you may be coming from, I'm going to glorify this black lifestyle, this hood lifestyle, but the people that are listening to it aren't always black people. For 9 times out of 10, it's going to be a white person who's never even been in your shoes. You understand what I'm saying? So when he started off saying hip hop's not my favorite genre, a lot of black people that I know, hip hop may be number 2. There's a lot of black people that will prefer R&B, especially old school R&B. A lot of black people that listen to even modern day R&B. Some black people that like jazz and the blues. Some people that black people that may be more into dubstep, EDM. Some black people that may be into pop or country. Black people like a lot of different genres of music, but we've been only held down to, oh, you like hip hop. Of course, hip hop is my favorite genre of music, but I'm also a rapper. You understand what I'm saying? But I also love pop music. I also like R&B music. Like, I like music in general. You understand what I'm saying? Hip hop is my number 1 genre just because I grew up on hip hop, but I don't disqualify any other genre of music because I'm black. You understand what I'm saying? And with that, you have to understand hip hop has only gotten so big as it's gotten because it has been able to bastardize and, like the title says, commodify itself to a wider audience. And with a wider audience equals a wider audience. You understand what I'm saying? And that kind of goes in probably to what he's about to say. Is just like a lot of these street rappers that think that they're talking to the trenches, talking to the streets. Yeah, you may have a portion of your audience that is in the trenches and in the streets. But when you look at these videos of these rappers performing in arenas and performing at shows, you're gonna see a lot of white faces in the crowds. You understand what I'm saying? That's why that whole Kendrick makes music for white people idea makes no sense, because all these rappers are making music for white people. They're not making music for us because we don't want to have our trauma sold to us all the time. We don't want to hear about people getting shot and people getting killed, people getting robbed all the time. We want to hear about the other things that are involved in the black experience, like love. That's why a lot of them go towards R&B, the jazziness and the smoothness of just blackness, jazz, blue. You understand what I'm saying? There are so many things that our life that exists in our life that isn't just murder, murder, kill, kill, which is why street rap doesn't appeal to all of us, but it appeals to those who don't have to experience that on a day-to-day. It doesn't affect them on a day-to-day basis. You understand what I'm saying?
Beforehand, bucko. Don't get it twisted now. I'm not saying that all or even most consumers of street rap are poor suburbanites. And I'm not saying that street rap has no value outside of being a cheap audio thrill for said suburbanites. But what I am saying is that the boom and popularity of street rap, particularly trap and drill rap over the past few years, seems to me at least to be for all the wrong reasons.
Right.
And that, folks, is what I want to spend the next 2 videos talking about. The commodification of the American ghetto and the implications thereof.
You are now about to witness the strength of street knowledge.
Street, what some call gangster rap, blew up in the early 90s after NWA introduced us to a bunch of crazy mofos from Compton, California.
NWA was late 80s though, right?
There yet.
87?
The history of street rap goes as far back as at least the mid-80s, with guys like Ice-T, Rakim, Cool G Rap, KRS-One, and who's widely considered the progenitor of the gangster subgenre, Will Smith, were putting the streets on wax and transforming hip-hop from the Mother Goose house party music that it was to unapologetic social and political commentary. This has been a conundrum for street rap and street rappers since the old days, finding the line between glorifying and merely bringing light to that part of America that conveniently gets swept under the rug whenever the U.S. decides to play the moral superiority trap card at the geopolitics Yu-Gi-Oh tournament. This is to say that the streets weren't given a lyrical Instagram filter from time to time, but even then, it was done by people whose chosen subject matter was of much less importance than their delivery of it. Because unlike some people, these guys could, and in his case, still can spit hot fire. Cue obligatory Chappelle Show reference. Although the market had already become oversaturated with gun-toting, mean-mugging, dope-slinging MCs by the mid-90s, frankly, it wasn't until the bling era of hip-hop that you could start saying that hood life became glamorized and imbibed.
Another important thing to it, I'm glad like they showed like Ghostface Killer, Raekwon, some of the best writers, most advanced, high-skill lyrical rappers of all time were street rappers. But that image and that side of street rap never gets pushed to the mainstream like it should be. You understand what I'm saying? Of course, Ghostface and Wu-Tang had a couple hit records, but when you think about, especially today, the street rappers that get pushed are the ones that may be mediocre with the rapping skills, maybe pretty good with melodies, and may have a fire producer. That's the type of street rap that continues to get pushed to the mainstream. But then there was also street rappers like a Nas, like a Ghostface Killer, like a Jay-Z, that are a little bit more complex, can tell different stories and be more figuratively advanced, that don't get as much light and be considered making music for white people, even though the subject matter exactly the same. Is just I can tell it to you a little better. It's not the dumbed down, watered down version because, as I said earlier, the white people are the ones that want the dumbed down version, not the black people. You know what I'm saying? We're the ones that will appreciate a Tupac. We will be the ones that will appreciate a Biggie, appreciate a Nas, appreciate a Jay-Z, will appreciate at least those who kind of came up in the culture. It's the new ones that will be like, oh, blah, 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 blah. Oh, that's music for the white folk. Oh, that's music for everybody makes Future music for the white folks. I like Future. Future makes music for the white folks. I like Thug. Thug makes music for the white folks. We get it confused and we swap it around, not realizing that everybody's making music for the white folks. When people say, I want to go pop, I want to get famous, I want to be rich. To do that, you have to appeal to the white folks. You understand what I'm saying? And I don't understand why people think, oh, if I just cater to the underground rap, a lot of underground rap really does appeal on the most level, because there's, of course, white underground rap fans. But for the most part, is going to be the most real life music that you're going to get, that are going to connect to people the most, are going to give you the chills the most. When you're talking mainstream, high budgets, all this money, if you think that that's the black people pushing those songs, then you don't understand how none of the business of America, of the world, works. More than 50% of the population are white people. So for something to be a hit record, for something to be a #1 record, it has to appeal to that audience. We're what, 6, 13, 14, 15, 16% of the population? You think, even though you can become a mega millionaire by catering to that 13% of the population, if you want to be a Drake, a Kendrick, a Cole, a Big Sean even, you have to touch that 50+% of the population. That's just how it works. So this whole idea of, oh, this person makes music for the white people, this person makes music for the black people. No, if he's famous, if you know him, if he's a household name, he made music for white folks, regardless of who he is. There's not one famous popular rapper that didn't make their music for the white folks. That dumbed down version of music is not to appeal to us. It's not to appeal to the streets. Dumbed down music is to appeal to them because it's giving them our complex life in a dumbed down form. That's why people say, oh, I don't want to dumb down for the mainstream. Who is the mainstream? They're the mainstream. We're not the mainstream. We're only 13% of the population. They're the mainstream. We're not dumbing down for black people. They're not dumbing down for black people. Because we understand. We have our, like I said earlier, we have our own code that we speak to where we know what we're talking about, even if nobody else knows what we're talking about. So when an artist is dumbing down their music, they're not dumbing it down for us because we get it. We understand. They're dumbing it down for them because they don't get it. They don't experience it. They don't understand.
Ironically, the same era in which I started to gravitate toward other genres of music, specifically punk and blues, and oddly enough, outlaw
punk and blues ain't show seeing punk and blues.
I remember when I was a senior in high school that my friend K, I actually had several friends in high school whose names started with K, but for privacy's sake, let's just assume that I had one. But anyway, K, an aspiring rapper himself, and yes, I did have several friends named K were aspiring rappers, but just listen to the story. Anyway, K, an aspiring rapper himself, was telling me how I had to listen to this track called Forever. That was pretty much one big lyrical gangbang. Not this kind, but this kind, featuring some of what were at the time hip-hop's heaviest hitters. And also some dude from Toronto who evidently had played a handicapped kid on Nickelodeon at some point. My point being, in my mind at least, this signified the end of the slow decline of street rap's dominance of the mainstream. One that, if you ask me, started way back when College Dropout convinced people like me to give up my double extra large white t-shirt and fitted hats for pop collar pastel polos and a leather backpack that was 2 sizes too small to fit a box of condoms. Hip-hop is pop music at this point, both literally in its popularity, but also in its content. Exactly. For the better part of the last decade, the general consensus was that if anyone was going to stay claimed as the best rapper alive, it was going to be one of these three. Kendrick, Cole. At least until that whole Ghostwriter fiasco. But my point is, between Kendrick, Drake, and Cole, the hip-hop GOAT crown of the 2010s got passed around these three like Nancy Reagan on the MGM studio lot. Until Cole basically said he was good with being a perpetual bridesmaid, and Drake, despite being a black Canadian, developed a rude boy and Arabic accent simultaneously. Point being, only one of these guys could rap about war stories and body counts, and we all believed it based on his zip code alone. And it was the Rastafarian or the one guy in the strip club who thinks the dancer really likes him. Yet and still, Kendrick said himself that even though he could have, like so many before and after him, just capped about his street clout and rode that wave into superstardom, he consciously chose not to because that's not who he is or what he's about. What he is about is bars, straight up wordplay and punchlines, syllables and dope rhymes over equally dope beats, period. My point being, over the last decade, hip-hop has managed to still dominate the charts, even without the gun and drug bars that the genre and its goats have become synonymous with. And thus, hip-hop cemented itself indubitably as pop music. And for the record, I think it's a good thing that hip-hop has gone largely mainstream, because I worked in retail, and until holiday season, all we heard between cleanup calls on the intercom was Top 40 radio. No one wants to hear some dude cry about accidentally running over his dog with the Dodge Ram or his ex who left him last 4th of July all day. Not even Clarence, if you could believe it. I actually prefer K-pop. Well, that was unexpected. Anyway, as I mentioned earlier, what irks me is not the commodification of hip-hop music itself, because music is a business, duh, but the commodification and objectification of the culture and community that birthed it. Hip-hop was born
what the hell is that?
from black culture.
Not a white woman with a do-rag on.
Urban culture, as much as I hate that word. Specifically the South Side Bronx, which also gave us Jennifer more rings than Tom Brady Lopez, so there you have that. Anyway, in 1973, on an August afternoon in the Bronx, DJ Kool Herc provided the soundtrack for his sister's back-to-school party by playing and mixing the same record over 2 separate turntables. And the rest was, as they say, well, not quite history, because you see, there are 2 essential elements to hip-hop music. The first being the beat, and the second being the bars. The OG MCs were literally just that, the masters of ceremonies at block parties, house parties, political parties, you get the idea. Their job was basically to just be the hype man for the DJ. And they did this by rapping about things and people in their immediate vicinity. Sometimes they even brought pre-prepared bars. As a result, MCing not long into its history evolved into its own thing, and could and would be done with or without a beat in the background, thus giving birth to an art form that we've come to know as freestyling. But even if they were the life of the party, the MCs weren't the stars of the show until like the 80s, and even then the DJ usually shared top billing. And this, folks, is why my mother curved the free Fresh Prince Will Smith, and a few years later met my dad and gave birth to me, aka what happens when you lack foresight. Anyway, like I said, hip-hop was birthed in and of the hood. So by the time the disco decade gave way to the Reagan administration, MCs had learned.
And that's the thing, when hip hop was made, a lot of it catered to the urban community. It didn't explode into the mainstream like it will eventually do in the 90s or whatever like that, until the glorification of street culture and street crime and these things started to happen, because that was the only way that they would want to hear us. Is we want to hear you in the light that you've always been painted to us. We don't want to hear you as this, you know what I'm saying, this intelligent philosopher that is warning and you know what I'm saying, doing this type of thing. We want to see you as what you've always been shown to us as, and that is degenerates, hooligans, animalistic, killers, drug dealers. This is what you've been painted to America to be. So we just want to hear the soundtrack of you being that thing, and that's what we want to hear. And that's their version of getting close to the hood without getting close to the hood. You understand what I'm saying? That's why when you hear a white person like, oh, I just want to hear like, that's what it really is. And then that's kind of where hip hop kind of messed up, is that we just started perpetuating stereotypes that was already thrown on us. And when somebody fights those stereotypes, you get looked at as trying to appeal to the white folks, when no, the white folks is listening to that because that's what they recognize. They don't recognize the smart rapper that, you know what I'm saying? Even though Lupe Fiasco probably does have a high a white audience, he was also a pop star. I'm not gonna say a pop star, but he was also a mainstream rapper, which is how he gained that audience. If he would have kept it to, you know what I'm saying, what it was, where it was, he wouldn't have gotten as big as he's gotten. He wouldn't have really touched that audience before. And the reason why Lupe got the audience he got is through Kanye, who got that audience because he was a mainstream rapper. He was connected to Jay-Z, who, you know what I'm saying, the list just goes down to how these people got into the positions and got the audience they got, and a lot of it traces back to you touch the mainstream audience somehow, some way. You understand what I'm saying?
Form as a means to both express and protest their condition. By the middle part of that decade, the real father of street rap, Schoolie D, had pioneered a much more aggressive and abrasive style of MCing that skirted the line between glorifying and merely relaying the lifestyle of the street hustler and the gangbanger. This is the rap music that Fox News warned your parents about, and the primary reason hip-hop as an entire genre was vilified by most of the mainstream until the turn of the millennium. Right around the time this guy dropped his major label debut.
And that goes into it too. Is yes, we're hearing these stories from the black people, whatever like that. But there's only certain people that are that interested in what black culture is. There's only a certain amount of people that are interested in what that black culture is from a distance. They're not going to go to the hood. They're not going to want to speak to people. They're not going to want to do this and that because they believe these stereotypes. But once Eminem came, he was the quote unquote spokesperson for what the white experience is. And then that got more white people into it because they're like, oh, he's speaking to us, even if the things he was talking about were outlandish, whatever like that. The face, this is what had them staying. And then that connected them to this artist and that artist and this artist and that artist. You understand what I'm saying? But he was the person that changed the acceptability of hip hop to the mainstream. And guess what? The mainstream is white people. And after him, then you get an explosion in Jay-Z, a DMX, a 50 Cent, a Ja Rule, a Drake, a Kanye, a Lil Wayne. These people all of a sudden followed and started to have these big white fan bases because he kind of introduced them, whether that's good or bad. It's good and bad. He introduced that side people into hip hop and helped get these other platforms to where they got. Like I said, like whether it's good or bad, because there is a toxic thing that comes with bringing these people who are not of the culture, not of the lifestyle, are not of what it is to be black into something, and now want to change and adjust the rules of how you should express your blackness. You know what I'm saying? And that causes all these toxic conversations, and then you get to Drake, and now you got these people who only started listening to hip hop in 2009 or in 2016, and now they want to once again change and alter the rules of what it means to be popular, what it means to be black. Your skills and your intelligence doesn't matter. You caring about music doesn't matter as long as you got clout, as long as you selling records, even though clout and records can be bought, but we don't care unless it's Kendrick Lamar. Then we want to say, like, come on, bro. Because it's
correlation.
It's crazy.
The point is, hip hop's roots lie in the everyday struggle of inner city living. The same way the roots of the blues lie in the plight of the black southern farmer, and punk in the frustration of the white working class. Though even that's debatable. I swear, y'all don't let us have nothing.
Wait, what happened? Hold up.
Everyday struggle of inner city living. The same way the roots of the blues lie in the plight of the black southern farmer, and punk in the frustration of the white working class. Though even that's debatable. I swear, y'all don't let us have nothing.
Oh.
Wait,
hold on, let me see what that said. What does it say? The Ramones. And I think that's like who they credit as like the creator of rock or whatever like that. Years after 1974. So they say that a certain type of rock music started in even though rock and roll was the 60s, right? That's what Elvis was it 60s? I don't know. So they're saying okay, I see what he's saying. Death is an American rock band formed in Detroit in 1971. The trio started out as a funk band, but switched to rock after seeing a concert by The Who. Seeing Alice Cooper play was also an inspiration. So before the Ramones even existed, there was a rock band named Death that was doing rock music. And let me see who The Who is. I will have to see who The Who is. One second. There we go. Let's see who The Who is. They were inspired to make rock music in 1971 by The Who. The Who. Okay, that's a rock band. Our English rock band formed in London in 1964. They're classic. And this is talking about the start of punk rock, not the start of rock in general. So they seen The Who and then started to make their own version of rock music, which just happened to be what was called the rock. Which will become punk rock, even though they were credited to the Ramones. I guess that's what he's saying.
I swear, y'all don't let us have nothing, do you? My point being, you can't truly appreciate an art form without understanding its cultural origins. Otherwise, you get into appropriator territory, which is pretty much the only thing that kept white America from going culturally bankrupt for the last 100 years anyway, to be honest. Like, I get it. American culture is just the Penn Museum of Natural History in real time. What I mean is American culture is less its own thing than it is the summation of centuries worth of browsing the cultural marketplace and saying, oh, look, this will look nice on the veranda wintertime. Y'all, if I know Harriet, just put it in the car so I can go home and jerk off and finish watching the game already. And I mean, I said before, I don't.
And that's the thing. And that's the thing too. Is like when it comes to this is why it's the irony of this America is the greatest country in the world, America is this, America is that, rhetoric and agenda is that all America is a gumbo pot of everywhere else in the world. That's all America is. All America is multiple cultures, multiple traditions from all over the world being jumbled up into one place. And now they're basically, you know what I'm saying? So American culture in general is just patriotism. That's really what American culture really is. American culture really is just being glad to be American. But when it comes down to the individual aspects of what American culture is, you're pulling from African culture, European culture, Chinese culture, South American culture. Like, you're pulling from all the good things from these different places, and you're just putting them in one little spot, and then you want to say you're the greatest country. Well, you wouldn't be where you are if you didn't pull from all these different cultures. You understand what I'm saying? Like, you talk about you bring the slaves over, so now you brought black culture. Then you allow the Irish, the Italians, the Swedish, the Polish. You let these people in, so you're pulling from those cultures, and then that's how you get America. Which is why when people always want to talk about the immigrants, this country is built off of immigrants. There is no America if immigrants don't come here. So all of a sudden, for this idea of, oh, we got to keep the immigrants out, they're ruining this, they're ruining that, they're bringing in criminals, they're bringing in that. That's been America from the beginning. So do you want to make America great again, or do you want to advance past what has made America great, even though America is great? But do you want to advance past that, which will be kicking out the immigrants, not allowing immigrants, slowing down on migration? Do you want to do that, or do you want to make America great again, where what that time period that existed, whatever time period, because nobody can explain to me what time period was when America was great. I don't know. Immigration was still a thing. People were still coming from other countries and sitting their culture and making it spread, building families, building wealth, building ideas and creations coming from other places in America. That is what America is. So do you want to go back there, or do you not want to go back there? You have to decide. It makes no sense.
Mind appropriation in the vacuum, because let's keep it buck. We're all guilty of it to some degree, or else you wouldn't have gotten your college boyfriend's name tattooed in Sanskrit on your left butt cheek. Now, would you, Jennifer? My problem is when you remove the meaning and subtext from what you're appropriating just because you like the aesthetic. So my problem is basically with American pop culture in totality. Case in point, how many of y'all actually know what based means in hood speak? Because I see it all over the internet, and I didn't learn until my kid brother taught me what y'all think it means. Back when I was a wee lad during the Clinton and Bush administration, base meant just that. Base. White. Dope. In other words, crack cocaine buckles and buckets. Thus the term basehead. Public Enemy literally had a whole song about the crack epidemic called Night of the Living Baseheads. So every time I see base ass on one of these videos, I have to rewire my 90s hood brain to understand that you're actually giving me a compliment and not saying that only a crackhead would make this kind of garbage and then think it's okay to upload. Which, if that is what you're saying, then respectfully, your mama's a hoe. See, that's an insult that crosses cultural barriers. And that's a very minor example of what I'm talking about, and one that's frankly black folks' fault anyway, or at least one black folk. And though I won't be using it anytime soon, and I probably slapped my kids if they did, I fully support your right to affirm things in people that you like by calling them drug addicts. I start having an issue when drug dealer and gang talk start getting tossed around by suburban middle schoolers like Capri Sun pouches after soccer practice. Like, where in the hell has Jimothy ever seen a brick and a hammer except on Bob the Builder? What set does Becky even have the trip over besides the one that knocked her out of the state tennis tournament? What the F is a bold stone beamery? And more importantly, who taught y'all to talk like that in the first place? Like,
that's another one.
When you cross the realm of
that's another one. People trying to use gang lingo, and you've never been a part of a gang. Just because your favorite rapper talks like that, now you want to talk like that, not understanding the context of why it is and how that can be offensive to a certain amount of people. If you're a white person and you walking around, I don't know, Long Beach, or a place that's heavy, that has a heavy Crip population, you talking about some Barkley Bit Bookie, they gonna look at you like, you understand what I'm saying? But they don't know that. They don't understand that it just sounds cool. Like, and that's kind of what he was saying, is you're taking from the culture without understanding the context of what that means in the culture. It just looks cool. It just sounds cool. So I'm going to do it. And because you never have to suffer the consequences of that, you think that it's okay. Meanwhile, people from that, whether they're black or Spanish or whatever like that, that do understand the context, no, I'm not dressing like that because that means this. I'm not going to say this because that can mean that, and that can lead to this, and that can lead to that. If you walk, if you in the hood and you talking about some Buckley Bill bookie around the wrong person, or you may dress a certain way, wear a certain color, or whatever like that, not only will you get pressed by people in the hood, but you might get pulled over by the police. That's something that some people don't have to deal with because it just looks good. It sounds cool. It's just fun to say, but I won't get shot at. I won't get pulled over by the police for these things because I'm not them. You understand what I'm saying? And I think that's kind of what he's talking about. Is just like people in the hood that have a certain culture, a certain lingo, dress a certain way, talk a certain way. We will suffer the consequences for doing those things. We will get pulled over, harassed, attacked by the police. We will be a stereotype, called ghetto, called ignorant, called loud, whatever like that, for doing these things. But if a white person does the exact same thing, it is considered cool, aesthetically pleasing. He showed Kim Kardashian with the braids. Black women have been getting killed for years for having braids. Not of course by us, because some people like braids. You know what I'm saying? But black women have been killed for years for their wearing their braids like that. Have been called looking ghetto and ratchet, doing the hair pat and all these things like that. That has been used to demonize black women. But when Kim Kardashian does the same thing, it's now a pop culture phenomenon. It goes to what's the football player name? The one that's dating Taylor Swift. I forgot his name. But fades have been a thing in black culture forever. But when he started doing the fade, all of a sudden they tried to name it his hairstyle, as if he created the hairstyle. You understand what I'm saying? And that's something that constantly has happened throughout the years, is that what we do will get us in trouble. What we do will have certain names and certain consequences. Even if what we're doing is harmless, it will still have certain consequences. But when someone else does it, it becomes their thing, and it becomes cool, aesthetically pleasing, the new hip thing. But they pull it from us and don't have to suffer the consequences. We have to suffer for the exact same things.
Like the street talk, you better know not only what you're talking about, but who you're talking to. Because believe it or not, where I'm from, a lot of people still take that stuff seriously. People who, frankly, you don't ever want to meet, even on a Zoom call. Street talk is symbolic of a condition in an environment created by institutions and laws this country created to ensure black people remain inferior to whites in the socioeconomic hierarchy. The American ghetto would not exist if not for policies like redlining that prevented black people of comparable means from accumulating the kind of generational wealth that white people did, and then leveraged that into upward social economic mobility for both they and their descendants. So while the FHA have been making it possible,
which goes to the lady who told the story about, like, I guess she was an older woman, but she was around, like when Kendrick said the 40 acres in the mule, she was around, and she was like, the land that was promised to black people with the whole 40 acres in the mule thing, that's around the time they started letting the Italians and the Irish and the Swedish and all these other people come in, and that exact land that they promised black people after they freed them, they started giving it to the Irish and the Italians, whatever like that, and we got left with nothing. We just got put in these small little communities, the projects and the ghettos or whatever like that, and the land that we were supposed to get to build generational wealth and farming and all these things will go to them, and they will be the ones that will become the dominant people in the culture, whatever like that, off of the things that were promised to us that we never got. You understand what I'm saying? And when we start to work hard and make certain moves and do certain things to get this land and get these things that we were promised, we get demonized, we get pulled down, we get attacked, we get called this, we get called that, get thrown in jail. All these different things can happen because all we're trying to do is get back what we're owed. You understand what I'm saying? Meanwhile, people who didn't even suffer anything close to what we went through can just show up and get it handed to them. Meanwhile, we were here and built majority of this shit, and then we don't get a piece of it.
For working class,
without having to coon around
city, and then to those spanking new neighborhoods built by companies like Lebanon Sun, colors were quite literally left out in the cold. Contrary to popular misinformation, the U.S. government outright refused to insure mortgages approved for black families, and even for those of white people who live too close to a predominantly black neighborhood. So I guess y'all do get in the word pass after all. No, not really. I will smack you. Additionally, the FHA outright would not subsidize companies who sold homes to blacks, and the banks just followed the trend set by Uncle Sam. There's no way that I can articulate how this devastated the collective wealth of Black America, so I'll just let this graph do it instead. Also,
okay. Gee, racial wealth inequality is rampant in the U.S. from 1983 to 2024. Median household wealth by race ethnicity in the United States. Okay, so from 1983, the median wealth of white people was 102 grand, and has increased. It increased every year up until 2010, and then it dropped a little bit. This looks like, but a little bit before 2010. This was like maybe like the 2008 recession. It dropped a little bit to, I don't know what that number is. It was still above, it was a little bit above 102,000. So people, the median wealth of white people during the recession was just about the same as it was in the 80s for a little bit. So even though it was bad, it wasn't that bad for them. And then it's continued to rise. This is the forecast. So this is going forward. Now it's about 122,000. So it's going towards where it was before 2008. Meanwhile, when you're looking at the what this is, the median wealth for Black and Latino people, it's kind of been consistently between 6 grand and 10 grand. The highest was 10 grand. Household wealth. So I'm pretty sure this is just the amount of money accumulated by people in the household, a husband and a wife, maybe money they've saved or money they have invested or whatever like that. At best, $10,000 median, which is average. And Spanish people are basically neck and neck with us the whole time. Theirs was a little lower, a little after 2000. Maybe something happened around that time. I know the recession, 2008 recession, that's what happened. That dropped everybody's, but something happened in the late 90s to 2000 to where ours went up and theirs went down, which I want to say is possibly coincides with the growth of hip hop, because that's what like in the late 90s to 2000s, Black people's wealth grew and Spanish people's kind of like stayed a little bit stagnant. So I'm thinking with more rappers getting rich and investing and stuff like that, the growth of hip hop kind of helped black wealth a little bit, but not as much. It still didn't get us close enough to where because white people profited a lot off of hip hop just as much as Black people, if not, I want to say even if not, and definitely more. You understand what I'm saying? A little bit before, and then when the recession happened, we were about about $200 more than the Spanish people, and then it started to go down again. And now we're basically what with them. And it looks like 2024 Spanish Latinos have now passed us. From what I'm looking at, it looks like Latinos have passed us now by about 400. So there's been like a shift. But regardless, it's crazy. The gap. We're talking about 4,000, 6,000, 10,000, 10,000, 1,000. You understand what I'm saying? And right now, from what I'm looking at it, Black people and Spanish people are poorer now than they've ever been. When I'm looking at it, because like even when you look at 1983, the lowest white people's median household wealth was 102,000, and it's never touched that ever since. Meanwhile, the lowest in the exact same time was 6 to 4,000, and now it's at 1,000 to 1,600. So right now, even though white people's are lower than it was before 2008, it's still not their lowest. Meanwhile, we're not only at our lowest, but way below where we were 40 years ago. That's crazy, bro. That's crazy. That says a lot, though. That says a lot. Because theirs continue to grow. What I'm trying to see, okay, 2010, you get to right here. So we got 2010, that's about 2012. So you get to 2016, and it's just slowly going up. Meanwhile, ours is just stagnant, if not getting lower and lower. So 2016. What happened in 2016 that could make that happen? I wonder.
Here's a quick FYI. You remember that time you went to see Disney on Ice at the arena in your local metropolis and you had to ride through the bad part of town to get back to the highway because your dad spaced out and missed the on-ramp because he was too busy questioning his sexuality after spending the last half hour of the show gawking at the wood on Woody? Remember all those ancient-looking abandoned lots and warehouses? Once upon a Great Depression, those were factories, mills, and other industrial buildings that employed a butt ton of people, including the great-grandparents of the people that made your mom scold you for leaving the car door unlocked. You know what happened to those factories? They left. Right around the same time, all those working class white people moved out to the sticks. And when you know it, they built a new factory near where the bulk of the workforce went. So what about all those black and Latino people who couldn't afford or couldn't get a loan to move out, and worse yet, couldn't find gainful employment near where they live? Well, what do you think they did? Just cease to exist altogether? This ain't a Marvel movie, bucko. So again, the creation of the American ghetto may not have been intentional, but it was most definitely by design. In some ways more literal than others. I said in the previous video, albeit very briefly, that I did live in public housing until I was like 5 or 6, and frankly, I didn't even realize it was the projects at the time. I just thought it was a gated community with a high concentration of doggos and druggies. This was in no small part because I didn't live in the high-rises that have come to be emblematic of the term housing project. We lived in one of the row home units you don't see nearly as often on all those gangland documentaries Netflix loves so much. So unlike my godbrothers who actually did live in the high-rises, we actually had such amenities as a back door and a second story. Look at how bad and bougie we are. And jokes aside, that did make a huge difference in how me and my sister grew up. All those horror stories you hear about the hood and the projects therein, 9 times out of 10, that happens in the high-rises, particularly anywhere past like the 5th floor. It's like Dante's 9 circles of hell, but in reverse, and with more circles. The thing is, as much as I've lambasted the ineffectualness of American policing, and rightfully so, I've never advocated for its abolition because I've seen firsthand the difference a police presence makes in a neighborhood, or in this case, a building. The stone-cold reality was and is that the difference between life and death in the projects often came down to a broken elevator. The higher your unit was, the less likely it was that the cops would actually respond to the call. That's just what it was. And that's why it was not at all uncommon to have a whole-ass trap house on the top floor of a government-subsidized building. I guess what I'm saying is the crack epidemic was the super's fault. On a much more serious note, though, the U.S. government, after it had stopped our great-grandparents from buying a home away from the rapidly decaying urban centers, herded those of us who couldn't even afford the rundown brownstones and townhouses that the white flight left behind into concrete cages and didn't even bother to make sure the various of amenities were at least operational. So what happened then? Well, exactly what you would expect what happened when poor and desperate people are left to their own devices to pursue the American dream of upward mobility without the prying eyes of the law peeking through the window slats. So in other words, this happened. Detail about how the U.S. government helped facilitate.
Yeah, if you took away, they just think drop crack off into the communities. You drop crack off after you pull out all the jobs. So you made it to where people would either sell drugs or be on drugs. You made it that way. Like you said, by design, you made it that way because besides selling drugs, they could have went and worked at a factory. They could have went and did this and did that. But when the white people left those projects, not the project, but left those communities to go into the suburbs, the factories and the jobs that were provided to those people got up and left with them and went over to more of those suburban areas and those those commercial business districts. That's how commercial business districts started. Was okay, this is where they're at. When you go to any commercial business district in your city or whatever like that, most of the time it's around the suburbs. It's not around the inner city. You understand what I'm saying? That's why especially in New Orleans, a lot of people that live in the inner city may work outside the city to make a living. They may work as far as New Orleans, they may work in the West Bank, they may work in Metairie, they may work in Kenner. Because if you work in the city, unless you work in a busy area like maybe Bourbon Street or something like that, you're not going to make that much money. You understand what I'm saying? And that's kind of what he's talking about is like, not only did you move all the jobs and the ways for people to make money out of those communities, but you put in a destructive drug, and then you change the laws around anybody that messes with that drug that you brought can go to jail. It's like he said, it's how it was designed to happen. Because they wasn't going to bring, they didn't bring the drugs into the suburban communities. They didn't. They put it right there where they also made it hard for you to make a living and make any livable wages. So now it's either you buy or you sell it, and we're going to make selling illegal, even though we bought it to bring it here. Or stole it. You understand what I'm saying?
That And I'll just say, as with all bad things we associate with the 80s.
And then when he talked about, he said he's not against the abolishment of police because he said he's seen the effect of the difference between what policing can and can't do to a community or something like that. Me personally, it goes like this. I forgot who said it. Someone said this. There are usually more police in hood areas monitoring the hood than there are in non-hood areas in the suburbs. How come the places with the most crime are also the places with the most police? That must mean potentially the police are the ones committing the crime. So I don't fully agree with what he said as far as like, oh, I've never been against the abolishment of police. I wouldn't say abolish the police, but I feel like the system itself needs to be readjusted, because it makes no sense that the place with the most crime is also the place with the most police, because it should be the exact opposite. It should be the places that don't have police there all the time, the police driving up and down the streets, monitoring and watching everybody all the time, is the place with the most crime. You would think that, but somehow it's the exact opposite, and it's because the police are there. And it's because not only is the police there because it's a poor community, so they have to do what they got to do to make ends meet, but the police are some of the ones that are committing the crimes themselves. And some of the people that are committing crimes aren't actually committing crimes. They're just standing around minding their business. You understand what I'm saying? But I guess that's illegal too, in some sense. I don't know, but it's just crazy. The system is so backwards that even if you break down the logic of the system, you're like, that doesn't actually make sense when you think about it. But when you're just looking at it at the surface, you're like, well, yeah, there's a lot of crime, so there should be a lot of police there. But no, there's always been a lot of police there, and there's still a lot of crime. So the police being there is basically pointless. You understand what I'm saying? Because it's also a running joke in the black community. The police gonna take forever to show up if something happens. You call the police, the police will show up faster to a 911 call from a white community than they would a black community, even though the black community is the most policed. So make it make sense. You understand what I'm saying? Make it make sense. The police are always right around the black community, up and down the streets, checking everything. They always at the gas stations or the corner stores. They always just around until something happens, and then they're nowhere to be found until it's too late. That's also why there's this thing in the hood of don't call, if something's happening, don't call the police. Don't call, because not only will they come in, not only is you going to potentially put somebody in jail, of course, but police be on bullshit, bro. They may make arrests on people for no apparent reason. They may get physical and abuse or shoot somebody for no apparent reason. Like, there's just not a trust in the community of when it comes to us and the police. And it's because they abuse their authority a lot of the times. They're never there when you need them. They're never there to protect and serve, especially for us, when that's supposed to be their job. You understand what I'm saying? Yet they're always in our neighborhood circling around, harassing us, but never are there to do the job that they're supposed to be there to do. And then you wonder why there's more crime in these communities, even though there's more police. It's because the police are the ones committing the crimes. They're the ones planting the drugs on people too. They're the ones attacking, abusing people, and killing people too. But they're not going to suffer the consequences for it as much as us. You understand what I'm saying?
Now, as far as gangbanging goes, not this kind, but this kind, because gangs, or at least gangs as popular culture understands them now, really wasn't a thing where I grew up until like the early to mid aughts. I can't speak too much about the history from a personal perspective, but from what I do know, it all comes back to institutions created for and by white people at the expense of blacks, specifically the police. So again, blame the super. My point being, hood culture and the language around it wasn't created for amusement. It was created as a result of the historical oppression of black people for just being black. Whether you realize or not, when you start flippantly applying hood lexicon to your vernacular just because you think it sounds groovy, you prove just how little you actually care about the people responsible for its creation. Because remember, the language and the culture that created it wouldn't even exist if we just been treated equally to white folk to begin with. And it's just ironic to me how mainstream culture loves to ridicule.
Imagine that. Our culture is based off the fact that we were oppressed. Are oppressed. I wouldn't even say were. We were oppressed and had to make the best of the situation that we were given as being an oppressed people. And now that we're kind of like trying our best to come up out of those things, whether it's through music, whether it's through business, whether it's through whatever means, and we bring our culture with us, they use that to be cool, not realizing, oh, you think the lack of educational funding and us living in the projects and over policing and the brutality and the oppression and the high incarcerations and all that of our people, you think that's cool? What if America loved black people as much as black culture? Think about that. They think that the results of all the damage they've done to our community, not only did they think it was cool to do, but they think the results of it, the way we speak, the way we talk, the mindset that we have, the situations that we've had to endure, and these gangs that we had to create to kind of build some community, even though it may have went wrong, but it only went wrong because oppression is still oppressing. They think the results of that is cool. They think gang signs is cool. Bandanas is cool. Slang is cool. Grills is cool. They think all that's cool, not realizing none of that would exist if we were just treated right. Ain't that crazy?
Anything and everyone it considers ghetto until it figures out a way to wash all that nasty black and pour off of it.
Yeah.
Now it's just America.
It's cool until it's ghetto until it's cool. Then when it's cool, it's cool. It's crazy.
With all that,
it's ignorant. It's ignorant. Bill Cosby. Look, it's ignorant until you want to take it. Then it's cool. Yes, sirski, brother, bludder, Barkley, Bill, Bookie, y'all. Well, I don't say y'all, but you know what I'm saying. Certain slangs. It's ghetto until white people take it. Then it's cool.
Because I can't really dive into this topic the way that I want to in one video, I'm gonna split the pack and then cook half the brick and keep y'all tweaking off that, and then I'll flip the rest of the week next week. Probably should have told the plug though.
Oh, cool. I might come back and watch part 2. Watch more part 2 at another time. I don't think I'm gonna count this as an Anon Cats episode. It's just probably gonna be just a reaction or whatever like that. A little discussion. People who find this video is gonna find this video. But that's it for me. Like, share, subscribe. Shout out to Lil Bill. You understand what I'm saying? But that's it for me. I don't know. Too sweet.